Welcome back to another episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast. Today we have Coach Mike Fell. He is the head football coach at Mountain View High School in Arizona. Coach, how are you doing?
Real good. Good to talk to you.
Well, thanks for coming on, Coach. We have a mutual friend who was nice enough to try to help set this up. But for people who don't know you, do you want to kind of give a background so they can kind of understand how you made it to Mountain View?
Well, I started coaching in Ohio back when I got out of college. I graduated from Ohio University, so I was an assistant coach at Lima Senior High School under Leonard Rush in the late '80s, and we went to the state semifinals in '89, and we had Larmondo Watts at quarterback, and we ran the veer, and it was a nice offense. It was fun to watch. He ran it well, and then I got the head coaching job at Columbus Grove High School, which is at that time was a Division V school in Ohio, and where we ran the wing tee and ran the ball all over the place, played tough defense. I remember one year we gave up like 6 points a game, so I was in Grove for 10 years, and then got the head coaching job in the Western Buckeye League at Salina High School, and that was where my former high school coach Jerry Harris was, and he ran the veer. And so at Salina for 6 years, I ran the veer. So at one point I ran the wing tee offense, and then I went back and ran the veer, which I had run in high school. And then I went to took the job at Ada High School. And at that time, I didn't want to run the veer. I was tired of the wing tee. I hadn't run it for a while. And Mike Mock there in Kenton, Ohio, had just kind of started the spread, and Coldwater had run it, and Mike had run it, and there weren't, there was maybe a half a dozen schools in Ohio, and probably not even that many that was running the real spread. But I didn't want to just go and borrow, bits and pieces from Mike's offense or from Coldwater's offense. So I had a great story. I was sitting around after Thanksgiving, and I saw this thing for Tony Franklin, and it cost $3,000. And so I dipped into my own money, and I went down to Destin, Florida, and got the Tony Franklin system. And I spent 3 days down there, and it was impressive, but it was big time. And Tony had just started selling this offense basically to schools in Ohio, but all around the Midwest. And, it went really well down south and stuff, but not too many teams in Ohio had it. And so I started to run the Tony Franklin system my first year there at Ada High School. So, I knew it was going to be a great offense. I knew it was going to be exciting, and it was something that Ohio hadn't seen. Fortunately for me, at that time, my quarterback that first year was Zach Dyser. And Zach was going to be a junior. Zach went to University of Miami and broke all Ben Roethlisberger's records. And then he got drafted by the Denver Broncos and was the third quarterback on the Super Bowl team that got beat, the Denver Broncos. He played for Miami for a little while and finished his career at the Dallas Cowboys, and was out here last week golfing with me in Arizona. But, Zach was a tremendous quarterback. And for 2 years, we ran that Tony Franklin system as good as anybody ever ran it, because he was outstanding, but it kept going. The next 5 years I was there at Ada, Mitchell Fain was my quarterback at one point, and he went to the University of Findlay on a full ride scholarship. Heath Jackson became my quarterback after Mitchell, and Heath went to Bowling Green as a wide receiver. For 7 years there, I had the all-league quarterback and possibly the all-state quarterback. And so then I was getting ready to retire from Ohio, and I decided to go back to my old high school, which was Lima Senior, who had fallen on hard times. At one point they'd won the state championship, but from 2002 to 2014, 12 years, they'd won 18 football games. So I felt like, that I could go back there and help out a little bit. And then for 3 years, we went 5-5, we went 8-3, and then we went 10-2. And we were running the Tony Franklin system. So all that time, we got Lima Senior back in good shape, and felt like it was time to go get out where it's warm. And that's when I moved out to Arizona, and I got the job at Mountain View High School.
Now, I have like 8,000 questions I could probably ask just off all that. But what I'll first start is from being a longtime veer wing T coach, what was that transition like for you, and what were kind of the hiccups for you going from that to a more of a spread oriented offense? It wasn't so much the under center. I mean, there is still if then aspects, but it's not maybe necessarily as concrete as it was prior. What was that transition like?
Right. Well, the thing was when I started the wing T, Skip Bachman there with St. Mary's was winning state championships with the wing T, and at Lima Senior we saw Troy, and Troy was running the wing T, and it looked so cool. It looked like a great offense. It was misdirection, this way, that way, and I started that at Grove, and we had a really tough, hard group of kids, played great defense, and I had like 3 plays. I ran the dive, I ran the buck, I ran the belly. And then the second year I added dive keep, and then we did the waggle pass. But, we were just grind. We had 3 running backs, and we hammered. And it was a blast, and we were tough. Running the veer was, we did a little more pass with that. But I was an old quarterback, and I threw the ball all over the place. I played at Lyman, I played at Ashland College, and loved to throw the ball. So, and I was real hesitant to jump into the spread unless it was the full spread. I didn't want to just run a couple spread plays or a couple shotgun plays and then run another offense. I think the real key to any offense is to have a system. If you're going to run the wing T, you run the wing T. If you're going to run the veer, you run the veer. If you're going to run the Tony Franklin system, you're going to run the system. You need to, and that's the only way you can adjust when teams shut down certain parts of your offense. You have something to bounce back with. If you're just running plays, you're just guessing. So if you have a system, you can do it. So when we started throwing the ball and then having Zach, it was fantastic. We turned the ball over once in a while, but we were going to get it back. We'd have drives that would be 6 plays in 33 seconds, and we'd go 75 yards. So, it was a hurry up offense. It flies up and down the field. It's a lot of fun to run.
Now, when you implemented the Tony Franklin system, did you implement it verbatim, word for word, step by step, or did you modify it kind of as you went initially to kind of adapt to terminology maybe you already had, or?
No, I didn't really have any terminology. I definitely did that with the wing T. I changed everything, but with the Tony Franklin system, it was funny because it was really kind of complicated. It was the most intense clinic I'd ever been to. For 3 days, 10 hours a day, I was writing notes and trying to get. So I thought because they offered help as the year went on, and they have clinics every year, and which I did. I went to every year, and I got to be pretty good friends with Tony. He came and he was the first one that offered Zach a scholarship. So, I became, and I've gone back to Tony's clinics for the last 15 years. And the thing was, by using their terminology, I knew what they were doing, and I could just bounce off that. And we run early, which is trips right. We go ace flip, which is trips left. So the terminology matched up. And he had, he had a million plays. And I talked to him right before I left that first clinic. I go, I can't teach all my coaches this offense. They had videos and everything else. I go, but I need to simplify version. He goes, well, he said, I have a play sheet that at the time he would go and he would help high school coaches do like a game plan for a game. He goes, I have a play sheet that's a base play sheet. And he says, we have half a dozen mesh plays, half a dozen smash plays, half a dozen fast screens, a dozen runs. And so he went through the whole, and he showed me this thing. And that's the template I used. I used that the first 4 years. pretty much verbatim on that. And, you had the variety of all the different type of plays, your go routes, your shallow routes, mesh routes, your smash routes, fast screens, all the runs you wanted. And that was a great way to start. And I still use that same template, but I've added, I added different things as years go on. And, the good thing about it is, his system has evolved every year. At one point he got the offensive coordinator job at Auburn. And so that year at the Tony Franklin system clinic, he had like 1,000 new plays and it was ridiculous, and I'm sitting there trying to put it in and I go, and what happened was he ended up getting fired from Auburn in the middle of the year. They got beat 2-0, or they won a game 2-0, and he got fired. And then the next year when he came back, he said it was the worst. He said he put in too much stuff. He didn't have anybody there that believed in his system, and so he kind of taught you how to handle it if things didn't go well.
Yeah.
So, that worked out too.
Now, you mentioned a little bit there you've modified or adjusted since then. How much of that modification is your own stuff or own tweaks or stuff that's his evolution as he's kind of kept building this?
Well, the thing is, like you said, he's got a huge playbook. And so the way I modify is to what I have. Now, one year I had a kid I played at Z, which is that Z is a spot where you can put on the left or the right or motion or whatever you want. So I just made more plays to the Z. In my playbook, I just added plays where I had more plays with my Z. At times I've had a really good running back. So, we've done a few things where we get the running back the ball more and put him out to throw the ball to him. So that's what I'm talking about modifying. This year it's going to be interesting for me because I have I have a tight end who's a junior who's been offered by, half a dozen schools all out here in the Pac-12 already. And my other tight end, we really don't even use tight ends, but I'm going to use 2 tight ends, is my Division I defensive end. And he's a stud. So I've got 2 stud tight ends. And, I got a nice quarterback and I got 2 nice running backs. So this will be the first year that we're not the all-out, throw it up and down the field all the way around. We're going to try to do some Iowa State stuff and use our tight ends and get them a little more involved. And you see that in the pros, too, where everyone's starting to use their tight ends now.
Yeah. No, I mean that's nice when you have 2 really nice tight ends, Coach. That's a blessing that creates a whole nother set of problems for defense. Well, I want to go back to your time in Ohio real quick. Kind of looking back at, you spent over 2/3 of your career in the great state of Ohio. Kind of reflecting on that, what when you look back at that, what do you kind of miss, and then what were your primary lessons as a head coach that you learned that you took with you to Arizona?
Well, there is no better state for high school football than Ohio, and I really felt blessed that I was able to grow up there, play football there. My older brother Kevin is a Hall of Fame football coach at Ohio, and he coached at Delphus Jefferson and was a power at Delphus Jefferson. Then he went to Sydney. Then he coached at Lakewood up in Cleveland for 20 years. And just 2 years ago, he was coaching at Tri-Valley and took them to the playoffs. And so he was in coaching. When I got into coaching in Ohio, the thing that's outstanding about Ohio is the camaraderie with the coaches. Mike Mock there at Kenton was the president of the Coaches Association and the treasurer forever. And, that's where me and Matt Bartley are buddies from, where he's a treasurer now. And I was the president one time. And I don't know if the rest of the country knows, but there is no better coaching organization than what we had in Ohio. Our coaching clinic there in February every year at Columbus is the highest attended of anyone in the state. The only thing that's probably bigger is the college coaches one that they always have down in Nashville, and it's a great clinic. You always have great speakers and stuff. And the football, out here in Arizona, we have, I think, 200 and 25 schools that play football, and we have 5 divisions. In Ohio, there's 790, that play football in all those divisions. So you have a lot more athletes, a lot more people playing football. And, it's just the sheer numbers, when you only get 8 teams out of 32 in each region qualifying for the playoffs and stuff, it's a big deal to qualify for the playoffs in Ohio. I loved the toughness of Ohio, the number of kids, the change of weather, having to play in the rain, having to play in the snow, doing that kind of stuff. It's real football. And, we're always in the top. Ohio's always in the top 5 or 6 of number of recruits that go on to play college football and everything. But it's funny, I don't miss the weather. I don't miss, I don't miss the cold. I don't miss that about football. We had some outdated rules in Ohio where you didn't really have access to your players. And, so it's a little behind the times in that regard. But as far as pure football and great football to coach, Ohio's just outstanding.
And then what was that transition like to Arizona from Ohio in terms of the actual coaching aspect?
Well, the thing that's ridiculous out here is we play football 365 days a year. I could coach my whole team tonight if I wanted, and we wouldn't have pads on, but I could have practice, and it's legal. There are no rules. 3 years ago, they implemented that you could coach every day. And so the one problem it does is it burns these kids out and it kills your coaches, and I always whined about it to these guys and like, oh, well, they're used to it. That's what it is. I don't care if they're used to it. It's not good. I said the pros don't do it. The colleges don't do it. Why are high school kids like my kids that play football for me? I had in class 4th period, and then day all year long. Okay, and then we have spring football, which is the 2 weeks in April and 2 weeks in May. You have 18 total practices. So we have all the football you could possibly want. It's down. It shut us down for a couple months, and then it shut us down again in the summer for a month, and then it limited stuff. And when the kids came back for football, they were so excited and so jacked up. And every coach you talk to goes, "My kids seem to be a lot more excited." I go, "Of course they are." I go, "They're not dying because they haven't done the same damn plays for 300 days in a row. The same drills." So I think maybe they learned a little bit from this, and I know I've always been one that I cut it down some compared to a lot of these guys out here. So my kids are a little more eager to play than a lot of guys.
Okay. Now I want to kind of get back to some of your system stuff, and when you're looking at actually let's start this way. When you kind of mentioned a little bit already how you adjust your playbook based off your personnel, but how in depth does that get each off season, reviewing? Okay, this is who we're going to have next year. This is what This is what we're going to add that we didn't have last year. This is what we're going to move that we had this year because these group of kids are gone. How much in depth and how long does that process usually take?
Well, the thing is, when you've run it for 15 years now, you've run some variation of stuff. The RPOs were the big thing that came in probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and all the Tony's teams. He was out in California with Jared Goff. He was his quarterback coach, and then he's back in Middle Tennessee State, and he just retired. But West Virginia runs our system. He's a guy that runs Texas Tech. It's all the same kind of stuff. You just kind of go back and you just got to look at it, and then we're fortunate in the spring we get to implement it. So, like I said, I'm looking at double tight stuff, which really isn't in the Tony Franklin system that much. But what they do have is they have some two-back stuff that we're going to use, and you got to kind of hunt back. Every year I'll put in about 6 or 7 new plays that I discovered over the winter. I'm looking at them. I go, we'll do this. And then by the time this game starts, I might have 1 or 2 of them that I use, but sometimes like this year, we'll do a ton of stuff that's a little different. And, it gives you something to do. It's fun as a coach to try those things. And with spring ball out here, we get to try it in practice and see how it works. And if it looks good, we keep it for the season.
Okay. And then, I mean, how much, and then at the same time, in your off season and summer, how much are you looking at how guys played you from the year before to make some adjustments, or is it more, or are you more looking at, okay, we know we're going to get these looks throughout this year, let's build our system to this?
We have, we have a number of kids, and, I have 35 seniors this year, probably 40, 45 juniors, and then another 50, 60 sophomores, and about the same amount of freshmen. So you get a bunch of kids, and we're just average athletes. We don't have great athletes. So if you do get like a Division I tight end that we have, you definitely start, changing your system to meet what they do. You want to take advantage of that. One thing we're always blessed with, and I always have quarterbacks. Even when I was running the wing T and stuff, I pick the best athlete. I pick a smart kid, best athlete, and I put him in that spot and start training them, and they do pretty well. I think I've had 30 years of coaching, and I've had the all-league quarterback probably over 2/3 of the time, and a lot of times the all-state guy, because I work with quarterbacks, and I just put them in the position. In this offense, you have a good quarterback. He's going to get big stats and all that kind of stuff. So you start there. You start with your quarterback, and you make sure you have a guy that can run your offense and knows what's going on and is a good guy. And then you look at what you have. And like I said, now I got a couple running backs, a couple tight ends. So I've also got a bunch of big linemen for the first time out here. And they're big, strong kids. So we've got to focus on learning how to run the ball a little better. We don't run the ball too bad, but we run it out of spread formation where everybody's spread out and we just take the lanes because they're out there guarding us. Now we're going to be we're going to be tight in there. And so we're going to run first and then be able to throw off of it. So it's a new concept this year. So it'll be fun. And it's something I've been working on, for the last couple months, and we're really going to get after it here this next month or two.
Now, you mentioned the success of your quarterbacks there. What do you specifically do to help develop them in the off season so that they can be successful come 2 days and in season?
Well, we let them have access to any video or anything you see with the drills and stuff we do. But it's nothing. It's no big deal. And now every kid's got his own quarterback coach. It's kind of wild, because if you're going to be a quarterback, and I'm sure it's the same way in Ohio, but out here in Arizona, I've got it's funny because I had not a very good freshman team. We weren't very good, and the 2 quarterbacks on the freshman team both have their own personal coaches, and they've done like a combine, and they did a camp, and so it came out yesterday that they were rated 3rd and 4th in the state in 2024 pro style quarterbacks. That was trending on Twitter today. And I'm like, we were 2 and 6, and I got 2 quarterbacks, and now they're the 3rd and 4th best pro style quarterbacks. And I'm like, whether it's true or whether it's Twitter or whatever it is, it's one of those things that you just kind of like, they both have their own coaches. And they're going to be fighting a junior whose dad is a Major League Baseball player, for the JV quarterback spot, and my senior quarterback is a 4-point student, coach's kid, who's a great baseball player and is probably an Ivy League quarterback, so I've got 4 or 5 guys that obviously are pretty good quarterbacks, but there's only, you only have one, that it's different than any place else. You only have one, so it's a tough job. But we just work with them. We have them throw when they can. We do a lot of just routes with the receivers that way. But like you said, they all seem to have their own quarterback coaches or something. So who knows what all they do? A lot more than, I don't have to make them throw that much because I don't want them to ruin their arms,
Yeah. And then kind of going to in season, how much do you follow his level of install schedule compared to your own? What does your kind of summer install schedule specifically look like?
Yeah, the number one thing with this offense is you got to be able to throw screens. So I always start off with fast screens, and screens are like a sweep to the regular offense. So we start out with fast screens, and then we go with the quick passes. The hitches, the slants, things like that. So we go progression from fast screens to hitches and slants, and then we go to the drop back. And we have our shallow, we have our mesh, we have our smash, we have our go routes, we have our post route, so it's that progression, boom, boom, boom. And then you're also at the same time working on your base run plays, and we run trap, we run dive, we run the zone read some. We don't run a whole lot of option stuff. I think if you're going to run option, you got to practice option all the time from an old veer guy. I don't like the great play one time and then putting it on the ground the next. So we don't run much option that way, but we kind of do that progression where, the kids start out and, with our quarterbacks and our receivers, we do the same drills pretty much every day. So whenever we start, they're doing these 4 or 5 drills every day, which is just ball catching drills and not a lot of running. So they get those fundamentals every day. And you try not to throw a ton because you're going to ruin your quarterback's arm.
Okay. And then when you kind of get in season, what data for yourself are you guys tracking? And then 2, what are you looking at for opposing defenses kind of your major keys?
Well, it depends on what they're going to run and which, because the teams that have always given us the biggest problems back from even when I was at Ada are the teams, and it's just like what happened to the Kansas City Chiefs. If teams can put pressure on you without blitzing with their front four is better than your front 5, they're going to give you problems because they're going to drop 7 and, make you throw it short and then tackle you, so that you kind of got to look and see what coverages they like to play. I love teams to play us man and then have to blitz because we always feel like we can beat that. If they're playing a zone, are they going cover 2? Are they going 3? What are they going to give you? So when we game plan, we look at what are they going to give up or what they're going to give you, and then we try to, what happens is in game, you may plan all week because they're a cover 3 team and, what you can do. You can sit, you have to sit in your routes. You can't keep running and stuff. And so we look at that and then all of a sudden they come out totally different. So the benefit of having a system is being able to make in-game adjustments and take what they're giving you. I remember back in Ohio playing a team that knew I was going to throw all the time. So they were having a 3-man front and they were playing 8 guys back there. And we ran basically dive 39 times. My running back had 280 yards, because they're just like, I said, and they didn't believe they figured I was going to throw no matter what. They didn't believe, but what we did, we just took what they gave us.
Okay. Now, kind of go back to the first part of that is there anything specifically you track, like play efficiency, explosive plays, throughout the season?
Well, we go back and we scout just like the opposing team's going to scout us and we try to look at what our, tendencies are, and if I see that, I'm constantly doing something on first down and stuff like that, I'll change it up a little bit, but I don't do a whole lot of that. I don't do a whole lot of that. I kind of I've done it long enough that I go with what we're good at and make you stop us, and if they stop it, then we go to something else. But, if we're good at fast screens, we're going to run them regardless. If we're good at going over the top, we're going to go over the top, regardless of what you're in. We've got it. We do certain things well. We got to do it.
Okay, and then I got two more questions for you, Coach. First one I got is, do you have any advice for young or first-time offensive coordinators as they start implementing their systems and installing and prepping for next season?
Yeah, I definitely go back to the fact that it's if you're looking at a team and you go, oh man, that gun stuff looks nice, oh, that eye play looks great, the option looks good, and you go, I'm going to put in gun this and option that, and do this, and at the goal line I'm going to do this or that. You've got to develop a system. You've got to have a system, and you've got to stick with it. I know it's easy to start something and then not have a whole lot of success and feel like you've failed at and I love playing teams that, were on their third offense in the week 7. They've totally shifted and everything else. Get what you're, look into what you want to run. If you want to run the wing tee, run the wing tee. If you want to run the system, run the system, but believe in what you're doing. Make sure you are the expert. There's nothing worse than somebody asking you what you're doing and you go, I'm not real sure. I can't remember, make sure you're the expert of whatever offense you're running, so you can answer the. Now, you may not know everything. Well, don't put in things that you don't know, run your basic stuff and get good at that, and then add, things a little bit at a time. But the kids have got to believe that you believe in what you're doing. If you're the offensive coordinator and you run the system, you better believe that it's going to work, and you got to have confidence when you come in the huddle and you go, hey, it's 3rd and 10. I know what this play is going to work. We're going to run curls, all curls, it'll be there, and you just have to have that confidence in what you're doing so the kids believe in you. If the kids think you don't know what you're doing. I learned that early on. I remember my very first game as a head coach. I came out in the huddle and it was 4th down and I decided to go with it. And I go, hey, what do you guys want to run? And my best player, my fullback looked at me and goes, you're the coach, you tell us. And I go, all right, shit. If Jimmy thinks I know what I'm talking about, I'll call it, and from that point on, I've always been confident in what I've done. So as an offensive coordinator, you find a system, you believe in it, you learn the base fundamentals, and you become the expert.
And then the last question I got for you, because of your vast experience as a head coach, it's kind of the same question, but just from a different perspective, is what advice do you have for head coaches in general as they start prepping for next year?
Well, the first thing you got to do is surround yourself with some guys that have your back and believe in what you're doing. Coaching is one of those things that you spend hours and hours and hours with your other coaches. And if you're coaching with people that maybe don't have your back and don't believe in what you're doing, then get rid of them. It sounds harsh, but you want to be with people that you want to be with. You don't want to go to work every day and go, oh, damn, I got to talk to my defensive coordinator. I don't like him, and then you go, this guy's a jerk. He's driving me crazy. If that's the case, if you're the head guy, it's on you. I learned that. I made some mistakes that way. But, the thing is, you surround yourself with the kind of people you like to be around, people that have your same vision and work ethic and stuff. You got to have guys that are willing to work. You don't want a bunch of guys, because as the head coach, you kind of lead by example. If you do all the work, they'll work. If you come in and sit down and go, we'll go out there in 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes later, you're like, maybe we'll go out there a little bit longer and everyone's sitting around. They're going to continue to do that. You got to kind of lead by example, but get a group of guys that you want to coach with and then make it simple enough that the kids understand, and make sure they believe that you believe in what you're doing. You know, don't go in there guessing for stuff. Go in there confident. Whether you really are or not, you want the kids to believe you are, and you want them to do whatever they have to do to help you out.
All right, Coach. Well, coaches, one, make sure you check out our sponsors and affiliates below. Coach's Twitter will be below for you to give them a follow, and if you want to reach out to him that way. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like and share this video and or the audio of this so other coaches can find it, so they can listen to Coach Fell here. And that was our episode of the Gap Down Backer podcast.